Hello, and welcome back to Slim Bits, where today we will be discussing the penultimate episode of KILLROY, entitled A Spooky Situation. So, as I mentioned in the last episode of the KILLROY Slim Bit series, episodes 18 and 19 were kind of where I was running out of steam for ideas. Luckily, I had a really good idea for the for episode 20 that I was happy to collaborate on with my writer friend. But yeah, episode 19 is pretty much a self-contained throwaway, kind of almost fan servicey episode where we get to spend a lot of time with the mayor character, who is a delight to write for. My friend Brian does a great job voicing him. He's always happy to do it. Like, to this day, he'll still dip into the mayor voice just for shits and giggles. Yeah, this is a pretty simple episode. There's no real, comic book influence to it. There's no villain that has roots in superhero stories. This is just hanging out with three funny characters who were, pretty much absent from the episode before. So, I guess one interesting thing to talk about with this episode is that I've never really considered myself an animator. I'm sure, most traditional 2D animators will look at the work that I put into these cartoons and see this guy's cutting a lot of corners, or he's just animating for his writing. You're not really watching the show for the most stunning animation styles. But this episode, I would have to say, has some of the most uses of visual effects that I've ever put in a cartoon. Like, we'll have a sequence where an entire hallway of doors open and close. The walls will warp. There'll be some shading effects. I guess the glitching out effect that I use for the actual ghosts, or the ghostly apparitions before we have the true reveal. That was something I had never really done before and had no real formal training. I just kept tinkering away with stuff until I found something that I thought looked good. And I know for, as far as effects go for Flash, they're very rudimentary and simple, but it kind of works, at least for me, in a show like KILLROY, where everything is very flat and there's not a whole lot of visually interesting things that go on. I was quite proud of how this turned out, and how, for something that I didn't have that strong of an idea for, it weirdly works and has its own little place in the KILLROY episode pantheon, just because, in addition from it, not being centrally located within Gritty City, we're in a new location, and we have, some visually interesting things that happen in the background. And to this day, that is still the best animated fire I've ever done. Oh yeah, and I guess when we're dealing with a plot of a supposedly haunted mansion, you start playing with all the conventions and tropes. For instance, in this room where KILLROY and Jay are going around, trying to find the secret pathway entrance by moving the right bookshelf or spinning a model ship around, which I guess continuity error. Did the mayor have more than one bottled ship in there? Because I see one on top of the mantelpiece there. I guess he had two. But yeah, that's always kind of fun to poke fun at the tropes that you would see in good pieces of spooky story mediums like Scooby-Doo and I suppose Sherlock Holmes and any kind of Hardy Boys mystery. Okay, so this sequence where my character tells the mayor a bedtime story, and really it's just his own recounting of a very bad date. That is only partially true on something that happened to me. I did have my car attempt to be towed away from me while I was on a date. We weren't popping into a drugstore. I didn't meet the girl. I didn't just meet the girl at the gym. We had been dating for a couple of months already. And I managed to talk the tow guy down from towing my car away, but we had a good laugh over what could have been an awful way to for the day to have gone. And I said date, not day. Okay, and so right about here we are going to meet the ghost character, who is voiced I've been told very badly by my friend Avtar, and I just want to come to his defense and say that I directed him to be very monotone and neutral with his delivery, which is too bad because Avtar is a very animated friend of mine that I knew from work. He's always been a supporter of my cartoons, and he's been dying to do a voice for me, and I got him to voice like a character who was intentionally meant to be very boring and very anticlimactic. Because you think of, oh, here's this ghost that's been haunting the mayor, and no, it's just a innocent misunderstanding. Oh, but speaking of people I know from work, this episode is also noted for being a time where I actually recorded this in a actual recording space. By that, I mean the audio engineer that I work with at my day-to-day job. He had access to like this small recording booth in his office space, and Avtar and I were there after hours with the audio director Sean, and he just recorded Avtar's lines, and it was noticed as being the first time that I had recorded dialogue for someone with like within a professional recording space. Normally, I just send my scripts over to my actors, and they'll just record it from their own homes. And if they don't have a soundproof booth, they'll just use whatever kind of desktop microphone they use, because that's what I use. And this was an opportunity to actually have a decent sounding character in one of these episodes. So yeah, that's pretty much how this episode. Oh, I will say I missed a golden opportunity to have a good button on that alliteration joke where Kilroy can't think of a final P word, and Jay mentions that you're slipping. The mayor responds with terrific. He should have said perfect or something, or some other positive word that begins with a P. Anyways, thanks for watching. That was episode 19 of Kilroy, the second to last episode of Kilroy. Eventually we're gonna get to the special. We'll get to the very special extended 20th episode, which I'm trying to arrange a special surprise for that. So stay tuned for it. Bye.